We're live, boys. We're live on the
We're
stream.
live here. It's October 16th. Thanks for joining us for another News and Nuggets episode with the Fantasy Whispers. I'm your host. I'm Austin Sear. You can catch me on Twitter at Austin_R_Sear. And of course, as always, joined by my other co-host, we have Big Travie in the house. You can catch him on Twitter at Big Travie. TFW. Is that right, Big Travie? At Travie?
That's right. You know the vibes.
There we are. And of course, Johnny Game Time Hicks. Johnny, hit him with the Twitter handle. How can they catch all your news and nuggets coming at through the Twitterverse?
You can get my Twitter handle is at Johnny_GameTime. But most of the time, I just go from the TFW account where I tweet. I need to start tweeting from my actual account. I need to get on that. But yeah, I digress.
Actually using, but I know we use a lot of stuff over here. There's a lot of places to catch all this amazing content. We've got our personal Twitter's account. We've got our TFW general show account. We've got the YouTube account, Patreon account. Instagram is popping. You can follow the Fantasy Whispers wherever your social media preferences might take you. And we're going to be over there spitting some news about football, news and nuggets, help you differentiate between what really matters and what's just there to distract you. So with that, there's no further ado. Let's jump straight into some of these news and nuggets and help you differentiate between the two, getting your booties ready for Week 6 NFL fantasy football. Am I missing anything here, boys, or can we jump into some of these incredible nuggets that have hit my ear holes starting off? Well, I'll let you. Anything I'm missing?
Probably, I mean, it's part of the news. It's part of the news, but I'm sorry, I just can't. I'm itching to get to it, boys. Can we talk about LeVeon Bell going to Kansas City? I very rarely like to take victory laps on this show, but I want to take a victory lap on this one because I called this. I said back when LeVeon first got released, I was like, Kansas City, here he comes, and sure as heck, it happened.
Yeah, now, I know you got the Leonard Fournette call. I heard the Leonard Fournette one loud and true. You were on the money with that one. Le'Veon Bell, I'll take your word for it, Game Time.
Ask Big Travie. He was there.
I'll ask Big Travie.
He definitely did. He called. He was the first one. And I kept trying to tell him, like, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Chicago made more sense. Le'Veon Bell's history wanting to get money made more sense to other teams to me. But nevertheless, I think Johnny's a tad more excited about the fact because he was down on CEH coming into the year. And I think Johnny's really happy that CEH's value is plummeting. That could be just something
that makes more sense.
Hey, hold on.
When he said he didn't like to take a victory lap, we're like, oh, it's a twisted reality. We're not living in the truth. So what is twisting the world? Oh, yeah, it's pride.
Hold on. Let's give me.
Oh, it's a beautiful day, guys.
Hey, give me some more credit. I'm more happy that I tried to go out and acquire CEH this week and vastly got turned down. And now all those people who I was trying to create conversations with, I know they're all like, oh, I should have taken the deal. That's why I'm excited.
Talk a little bit about that, though. How do you think that this news is going to be impacting both LeVeon Bell as well as CEH? Now, this week, LeVeon Bell will not be eligible because of the COVID protocols to join the Chiefs at their game this week. The earliest he'll be available is going to be for Week 7. When Week 7 comes, is CEH relegated to the second tier? Is it going to be a competition outright? Does LeVeon Bell have an advantage? Big Travie, I want to hear from you first of what you think is going to shake out in the Kansas City backfield now that LeVeon Bell has joined the squad and CEH is still there.
Yeah, unfortunately, CEH truthers are squirming all over the place because with this addition, this essentially means that CEH starting in Week 7 is probably going to be ranked within the 24 to 35 range at running back, just because he's going to miss out on, look, the popular opinion is to say that he's going to miss out on goal line and short yardage. LeVeon Bell is a receiving threat. He is back in his heyday in Pittsburgh, he was running more routes or the same amount of routes as wide receivers like A.J. Green and Julio Jones. So to think that there aren't a number of ways that LeVeon Bell can hurt CEH's value is just not good football fandom. So you have to understand that Le'Veon Bell is a big physical back with pedigree that has played for championship style rosters, and now will go and chase a championship here with Kansas City. And no better offensive mind in the game to get Le'Veon Bell in space. I think this completely hurts CEH's value. Not that he was on his way to return first round value as it was right now, but he definitely has no shot going forward.
How about you, Johnny? What do you? We know that this is going to be taking away from the ceiling of both running backs over here because there's two that are going to be playing. How do you feel in week 7? Who would you rather be starting week 7, CEH or Le'Veon Bell? Given right now, and we'll have a lot more news before those decisions have to be made.
Well, week 7, I think CH is still fine because they play Denver, and if you kind of do the math with what they're saying, the protocol is with the testing, it's kind of lining up that Bell will be in the building next Thursday. So that gives only 2 days, 2 to 3 days to try to get Le'Veon Bell up to speed on some plays. So I just don't think that they'll have a handful of plays. They'll want to, show them for sure, show them off, see what they can do. But it will probably be more in the receiving area. So come week 7, I think CH is still okay. But then after that, it's going to be, they've got some nice running back matchups, New York Jets, Carolina, and weeks 8 and 9. But you're talking like the upside is tremendously down because of Le'Veon Bell being there. I do expect him to be that goal line thing. Listen, he's not the same Le'Veon Bell we saw in Pittsburgh a few years ago, but he's more of a bruiser now instead of a finesse player. So he's a bruiser and a guy that is tremendous when you line him outside. So it just gives Pat. I could honestly see him using both too on the field at the same time. Le'Veon and CEH gives Pat Mahomes another weapon. This is just, just from a football standpoint and Pat Mahomes standpoint, like that's going to be fun, but it's going to be no fun for fantasy, unfortunately.
I want to say that if you can find somebody in your league that is valuing Le'Veon Bell at what's going to be the future running back 1 for the Kansas City Chiefs, and you have Le'Veon Bell in your squad, I would try to trade Le'Veon Bell for that. I foresee this going, just like Johnny said, Le'Veon Bell does look like a little bit more of a bruiser versus that number 1 running back in the league we saw him operating at when he was in Pittsburgh. He's a man with a ton of tread on his tires as well, and he's going to be coming into a system that has other running backs. And CEH, while he has underperformed in some capacity, isn't playing poorly either. And I think that if you can sell him on the hype, I would encourage you to consider doing that if someone's willing to pay that premium for Le'Veon Bell, because it is a juicy setup, right? It's Le'Veon Bell with the best offense in football. So we'll see.
And you get those emotions.
You get those emotions. It's an emotional game, as I know everybody who's playing fantasy football. And if you're watching a podcast on fantasy football, you know the emotional pull we're talking about here. So moving forward with some of these news and nuggets, we've got a handful of them out of Tampa Bay, another exciting, sexy team over here. Chris Godwin right now has been dealing with the hamstring for a couple of weeks, practiced in full today, Friday. He's going to make his return to the Tampa Bay lineup just in time for such an incredible matchup against the Green Bay Packers. So we know it's a hamstring issue. We know there's a risk of re-aggravation. Johnny, how do you feel Chris Godwin's going to be making an impact both for fantasy rosters as well as the Tampa Bay Bucks?
If you've got him, I'm throwing him in my lineup. Chances are you don't have a better option. Sure, you might possibly where you can kind of relegate that risk, but we've seen this several times where we're like, these superstars coming back that we've been waiting, and we're kind of like, hey, we should maybe wait a week or two and see if they're fully healthy, and they're coming back right away and producing. So Chris Godwin is most likely a guy you draft in the 2nd round, 3rd round. So I'm gonna if he's going, I'm playing him. Love this matchup. It's going to be a fun football game as well. And I want to see that Brady connection with Chris Godwin. Very first game, it wasn't really quite what we thought it was going to be. So I'm interested in that as well.
And Big Travie, Mike Evans, their opposite wide receiver over there in Tampa, he's been dealing with some other issues. Ankle this week primarily been keeping him out of practice. He was limited in Friday, but everyone's expecting him to be a full go for this weekend. We know he was banged up last week, still performed at a high clip. How are you expecting Mike Evans' performance, even though he is dealing with some nagging injuries?
I actually think this is a better setup for Mike Evans this week than Chris Godwin, and that's because
Mm.
Jair Alexander is probably likely to shadow Godwin, and he's been doing really well. He kind of blanked Calvin Ridley. Now, obviously, Ridley was banged up on that Monday night game, but Kevin King, who's the bigger, taller corner for the Green Bay Packers, is going to be a game time decision and maybe out in this game. And so the idea here is that Mike Evans could be poised to be the kind of the recipient of more looks his way based on that. And this is a high over under. Green Bay barely favored. This should be a competitive game with lots of looks for Mike Evans possible.
Love those takes. Now, we've talked about the pass catching options in Tampa Bay. I want to shift it over to the running backs in Tampa Bay before we move on to another team. But before we do that, big shout out to everybody in Whisper Nation who's joining us right now over here on the live stream. We got 8 of you with us. Thanks for spending your Friday afternoon here. If you're liking what you're seeing, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button. We know that we got it in us. Let's go ahead and hit those thumbs up. We got 10 people now. Please be sure to hit that thumbs up. It allows us to grow the channel. And if you haven't liked and subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Hop on there. Stick with us all season. We're going to be doing news, nuggets, and daily content coming your way the entire time, as well as answering lineup questions and general fantasy football questions that you might have. So throw it to us in the chat. We'll love to answer those ones. But Johnny, I want to talk to you a little bit about the running back situation in Tampa Bay. I know you've had a close eye on the details of this. Leonard Fournette and company included. Leonard Fournette been dealing with an ankle. He's questionable this week against the Packers. Arians said he's a true game time decision. Ronald Jones has been in a pretty good command of the backfield. We know Vaughn has been a part of it as well. What are you looking at for the backfield in Tampa Bay this week?
I think that this is another week in which if you have Ronald Jones, you're kind of thanking your stars because it was a week that we thought that Leonard Fournette could be back. It is concerning that he's taken this much time off and he is still a game time decision. You would think with having, only played one snap last week and it was just the lining up in the backfield. He didn't touch the ball or anything. Tom Brady was just taking a knee at the end of the game. So that is concerning, but definitely Ronald Jones is someone that I would roll out there. I don't think Vaughn, he is a little bit banged up as well. And take it from me, a guy who started Vaughn last week, I got the Thursday thirst. It's never a good thing to get Vaughn in your lineup, so try to steer away from that. But if if Fournette is not good to go and you want to take that dart throw stab at Vaughn, and in case he does give it a go and he is, pops off, you might get a jump on a waiver wire claim there. Austin's really. Oh,
all right. So keep an eye out for the other running backs in Tampa Bay. Oh, did I freeze? We good?
Yeah, you were frozen for a second, and I was a little worried.
Okay. I'm here. I'm right there with you. Walker Bass, before we jump over to the Eagles, Travie, Walker Bass wants to know where you'd rank LeVeon Bell. It's got them both and trying to decide what to do. We touched in that one a little bit earlier. We definitely hold off until week 8 till we see a little bit more. CEH would be the preferred start in week 7. And of course, there's no Le'Veon week 6 given the protocols. Am I missing anything on that question, or is that one it there?
No, that makes sense.
All right.
So I think it's tough, right? Because we do have a first-round pedigree running back here that we haven't seen before. But we've got a little snapshot of what multiple backs in this offense look like last year. And if you look at weeks 10 through 17 last year, Damian Williams was the RB27. I think that is probably, RB2 range is probably Le'Veon Bell's floor, with week-to-week RB1 upside based on just being the goal line back in this offense. And so I would say that, I think, 25, 26 on a weekly, week in, week out basis. And, this is probably about where you were ranking him in the Jets, and anything he's doing in Kansas City most likely is going to be better than what he was doing with the Jets. And I just think also with the Sammy Watkins injury, what we're not talking about here is maybe the two of them on the field at the same time in a situation where they put Le'Veon Bell in the slot and try to work him as a true wide receiver. So I could see a lot of options for Le'Veon Bell to get involved in this offense, and they were aggressively pursuing him. So they obviously have plans for him.
Love those takes here. Moving on. One other question here. We'll jump to one more question before we.
Do we lose Austin?
Sounds like it.
So the question was,
Who do
oh, he's back.
keep
hang
squeezing on.
there? Okay, so next is pass. He got 2 wide receivers and a flex option. He's got CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Justin Jefferson, Dante Freeman, and Damian Harris. So we need 2 wide receivers and a flex, Johnny. Who are between CeeDee Lamb, McLaurin, Justin Jefferson? Which 2 wide receivers would you like to start?
Don't love McLaurin's matchup this week. I'm definitely starting CeeDee Lamb for sure.
Even with the Dalton news?
Even with the Dalton news, I think CeeDee is the one that's definitely protected because he's the slot guy there. I think he's definitely
Okay.
I don't think there's going to be very much change there. But I think I'm still rolling out McLaurin, even though it's against the Rams and the Rams have been locking up. Yeah, it's hard to bench him.
Against the Giants.
Or I'm sorry. Yeah, that's
Well,
right. But the Giants have been on the number one
James
corner.
Bradbury.
Right.
Yeah, James Bradbury's lockdown corner has been really good. And I would actually disagree with you, Johnny. I think I'm benching McLaurin here because of that. That dude has locked down Amari Cooper and Allen Robinson this year.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen Terry McLaurin dust other cornerbacks that are really good before. But with Kyle Allen plus this emergence of James Bradbury, I'd actually be benching Terry McLaurin, and I would start Justin Jefferson, I think, ahead of him in that matchup against Atlanta with that secondary just destroyed right now.
That's a pretty tasty matchup, right?
Yeah.
Those are good options to have. I like Justin Jefferson because of those points you made there. And Johnny, you've been right on CeeDee Lamb this whole year. That man looks so good. A lot of good rookie receivers. Justin Jefferson, obviously, too. But my goodness, does CeeDee Lamb look like he's been in the league for a handful of years already? And rounding out that question, then Devontae Freeman, Damian Harris, or then I guess if we're starting CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson, we'd have to flex one of Devontae Freeman, Damian Harris, Terry McLaurin. Travi, who do you like?
Take Damian Harris. I just think they're 9-point favorites here. The game script should be really good for him to kind of add on 15 carries or so, maybe 20 carries in this game, just because they're going to be up. So they should be up in this game. I know it's hard to project usage for a New England back, but I think Harris is kind of locked into the best pure runner in that offense.
I think they are giving him the Sony Michel role, and so Sony Michel was getting 15 to 20 touches in a game. So you'll just have to look out for that because of the COVID testing. There was a positive test, so just be aware of that. That the New England had to shut down practice again today.
And the one just thing I want to throw up there, because I've got Sony Michel and Damian Harris and been paying attention to that whole nightmare for quite some time. Damian Harris actually came in his first week, had more touches than Sony Michel had received the entire year. His previous high was week 1 with 10 touches, and Damian Harris came in and dropped 17 touches in that first game back when they had Rex Burkhead, James White, and Taylor all still playing. The only one out was Sony Michel himself, and they gave him 17 touches, and he had 100 yards with it. So I like Damian Harris coming in right now. I don't see any of those backs competing for the role he looks to have carved out there. So great questions. Keep them coming. We're going to keep plugging along, though, on these news and nuggets. And my question here is for Travis with the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles, man, what a weird team we've got, and it's about to get even stranger moving forward. We've got Alshon Jeffrey, who's been their Optimus Prime, clinking and clunking technical wide receiver 1 for quite some years. He's hurt all the time. He still is, but he's coming back soon. He's not playing this week, though. Deshaun Jackson, another transformer, if you will, of a maybe more nimble breed, who's also hurt all the time, is surprise, surprise, hurt again. He's not going to be playing this week because of the hamstring issue that he's dealing with. They should be coming back, though, and I will say that if they're healthy, they're not bad starts. But they're hurt this week. Travis, what impact is these veteran wideouts' absence going to have on this really kind of bizarre set of wide receiving options that they have? I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I try to make this joke once a week, pretty much, that the only Greg Ward isn't the only Ward in the Eagles wide receiving core. It's been an injury ward, so to speak, and I think that what's going on here is just more of Travis Fulgham, right? What we saw 2 weeks ago against San Francisco was 61% snap share, 57 yards on just 2 catches, and then In the Pittsburgh game last week, he just exploded. 78% snap share, 13 targets, 10 receptions for 152 yards. Like, if Chase Claypool hadn't scored 4 touchdowns, we would be talking about Travis Fulgham a whole lot more. This matchup is tough. I mean, Baltimore has 2 lockdown corners. So the only thing you could say is maybe they'll move Fulgham around, because they did a lot of moving him around the lineup, playing all sorts of positions against Pittsburgh last week. I would cool it on most of this offense, though, in this matchup outside of Miles Sanders, because Baltimore is projected to boat race Philly out of this game, and I would just try to cool it on the expectations. But Fulgham is a beautiful stash, because if you're telling me the only way that he doesn't get more work is if Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson get healthy, I'll bet the under on that.
Yeah, right. And Zach Ertz looks kind of slow. It looks a little washed. I hope he figures it out, because you never like to see that, but the separation is.
I mean, he's still getting 6+ targets and playing 95% of snaps. He is getting doubled quite a lot. It's hard to bench. I will say that Baltimore.
He's the new Jason Witten.
Yeah, well, it's hard to say that when, I mean, as of right now, yes, because there's no other pass catchers
It's not
right
hard
there.
to say that, because he's had 15 yards over the last 2 games. Because I don't want any part of Zach Ertz. I think Zach Ertz could have been dropped last week. I think you could drop him now. And you got Dallas Goedert around the corner, and that is just going to hurt him even more. So I'm good with parting with Ertz. Maybe you guys think that's a spicy take, but I just don't see it this year.
I do think it's a little too soon.
I think that take is like you call it, is it a spicy take? It looks like a jalapeno, but it's one of those jalapenos where you take it and you're like, oh my God. And then you bite into it and you're like, that wasn't spicy at all. That was actually like super mild. And if in 3 weeks, Zach Ertz has gotten a combined 50 yards in 3 weeks, then you're going to be like, that was a pretty sweet jalapeno pepper. No spice on that one, but it might be the end of an era. It might be the end of an era. But speaking of the start of an era, Johnny, A.J. Brown with the Tennessee Titans, wide receiver, is going to play week 6. We saw him come back from that bone bruise that's been plaguing him since the beginning of the year. His reps are being monitored right now in the practice facilities, but there is there's no expectation he is going to miss this weekend's games. How are you feeling about A.J. Brown and the rest of the playmaking options in Tennessee, coming off of Tannehill's 4-touchdown performance?
I love A.J. Brown. I'm starting A.J. Brown if I have him. I think that Juju Smith is also a great option here. Those are the 2 pass catchers that I would be looking for on this one. I think that even when Corey Davis comes back, I still think that Corey Davis will be the 3rd option in this offense. We saw the connection that him and Ryan Tannehill had. It was the same connection that they had last year, and they're continuing to build on that. So it looks to be those 2 are a nice tandem to have. I like A.J. Brown a lot moving forward and this weekend.
Got his role in the offense. He's got his skill set. It looks really good for A.J. Brown moving forward. Travis, I want to talk to you about Noah Fant and the Denver Broncos playmakers. Noah Fant, we talked about Juju Smith breaking out at the tight end position. Noah Fant was in that preseason conversation as well, and when it started, was looking like one of the tight end breakouts. Incredible start to the year, and then he got hurt. Looked like a scarier injury than it actually might end up being, which is great news. That ankle that he's been dealing with makes him truly questionable for week 6 against the Patriots. He did catch a break last week with the game being canceled. Now the game is back on. He's going to be less than 100% regardless, playing against the Patriots. How do you feel about Noah Fant, also given that Drew Lock is questionable for week 6? We'll talk about a couple of these playmakers here. Drew Lock, he is questionable again. They took away the probable, so it's a step in the wrong direction, but he's clearly in line to start. The situation is a challenging one, like we said, because of the Patriots. He's dealing with a shoulder, not good for your quarterback to be dealing with a shoulder. But how are you feeling about Lock and the pass catching options over there in Denver, Travis?
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about anybody, I would think Jerry Jeudy could get some volume here just based on the negative game script that they're going to be in, but I wouldn't do much more than a flex play for Jerry Jeudy this week. As far as Noah Fant's concerned, yes, you're right. He benefited from the extra week. It looks like he's logged a limited practice all week. And here's the thing, like, tight end's a dumpster fire right now. And if you're going to sit there and say, like, can I take an 80%, 85% Noah Fant or stream an Irv Smith, who just finally saw a considerable amount of snaps last week, like, I'm going with a Noah Fant. Like, I'm going to go with someone who at least has the upside here this week. And I just think that all the streaming options that are out there are just a little bit gross, especially at the tight end position. You look at Hunter Henry, Jared Cook, Darren Waller, all on bye. So a lot of your league mates are grabbing, streamable tight ends. So you may be last to go get one here. And I think that's a situation where it's like, you're probably going to roll with Fant.
Which is why you should not drop Zach Ertz, because that is the exact argument, is that there is nothing on the waiver wire for him to be dropped to go get. So
most likely.
But his floor is the same as any other floor. So
sure, but his upside is, what
his upside's what? What is his upside?
Chris Herndon's?
I haven't seen it.
Chris Herndon's upside.
We haven't seen it. He's getting double teamed. That was the whole purpose of the Zach Ertz. Everyone's double teaming him because there's nobody else to worry about right now. That's why when he gets his pass catchers back, it could open up for him.
I hope it does. I hope we see and have a new take for Zach Ertz, because you hate to see somebody with that kind of skill set and opportunity fade to black. But we have one more playmaker in Denver, Johnny, I wanted to ask you about. That's Melvin Gordon. We know he had the DUI news earlier. He's dealing with an illness right now. Not sure if that's hungover related or not. We know it's not related to COVID, so that's good.
Reminds me of
but Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, it reminds me of the School of Rock when he's like, do you guys know what being hungover means? And it means that you're drunk. No, it means that I was drunk yesterday. Like, that's what Melvin Gordon is saying right now.
Given that he will hopefully have his blood alcohol content levels down to reasonable levels come Sunday, how are you feeling about the run game in Denver, given his crazy week, and also Phillip Lindsay, who should be back and more of a full go?
Yeah, I think that you can still, if Melvin Gordon does end up playing in this game, I think he's a flex option. I think that, you saw him and Phillip Lindsay share the backfield on week 1. He still ended up with 14 fantasy points, pretty solid. And he had I'm looking up right now. Sorry about that. He had 3 receptions, 78 rushing yards. So. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly what he'll get on this one, but I'm just saying that he is more now of a flex and a low-end RB2 now that Phillip Lindsay is back. They'll eat into each other, and then you do have this worry about, his sickness or, the DUI. So not looking good for Melvin Gordon moving forward, though.
I want to just pop in here for these questions that we've got rocking and rolling here. So, Brazy Brady says, would you accept or decline? I'm giving Russell Wilson. I'm receiving Kareem Hunt and Emmanuel Sanders. I also have Kyler Murray. I've got Diggs, Thielen, Godwin, Woods, A.J. Brown, and Shark. With Kyler Murray, like, to get back Kareem Hunt, I would definitely do that deal.
Yeah.
I would definitely smash accept on that. So we tried to say that there.
So to think, I want to think that one through really quick here. So you're Russell Wilson, going from Russell Wilson to Kyler Murray is a downgrade. You'd rather have Russell Wilson than Kyler Murray. I know Kyler Murray is still a high explosive, great player, but we'd all agree we'd rather have Russell Wilson, right?
Yeah, but
I would
take a RB1 with it and downgrade
with a quarterback who's a QB5.
Because Sanders, you're not starting Sanders when you got Diggs, Thielen, Godwin, Woods, AJ Brown, or Shark. He's the last of that group. So would dropping from a Russell Wilson to a Kyler Murray, but getting Kareem Hunt be worth it?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes. Kareem Hunt is a potential league winner, especially if that injury lingers with Nick Chubb. Like, I want every part of marginally coming down every week, 4 to 5 points, maybe 10 at the max at quarterback, to increase by 20, 30 at any given running back every week, especially if you just put Kareem Hunt in your flex. The position depth, you can make up those points very easily at quarterback as opposed to running back.
I like that breakdown a lot. And Kyler Murray is still very exciting.
Yes. I mean, and leads the league in rushing yards from the quarterback position and rushing touchdowns from the quarterback position. So I think he's just getting started. He has the same ceiling as Russell Wilson in my mind.
Because of that rushing ability as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Brett is saying, is trading Waller and McLaurin to get Ridley a fair deal? I'm very deep on wide receiver, but with no star, and already have Jonnu, who's been just as good as Waller so far.
This is tough because
I mean, Julio's coming back, or maybe, but
and I am just so concerned with having any pieces with Atlanta. Like, I'm real concerned with that. Just seems like a dumpster fire. But I mean, I don't think I would do this. I just don't think that.
Yeah, I think you could get more for. I think you get more for Waller and McLaurin.
Yeah, I agree.
Like maybe see if I think you can get more. Juju or John Brown. Austin, what are you thinking about that one? Juju Smith-Schuster or John Brown in standard, and then Freeman or Devin Singletary?
I mean, the sex appeal of a Juju Smith-Schuster is hard to deny when John Brown it doesn't look like is going to ever be the number one over Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. And Juju Smith-Schuster continues to be outperformed by Deontay Johnson or Claypool, but Juju Smith-Schuster is still in a position to be a vein for that offense, as I think John Brown is going to be an ancillary piece when it comes out to it. I would personally keep Juju myself over John Brown, at least as a hold for a little bit. That value is going to keep with Juju longer than it's going to keep with John Brown.
And Deontay Johnson has been ruled out for this weekend, so that is an uptick for Juju.
Yeah,
we've got some more. I mean, the chat's popping off. Just want to say thanks to everybody. 13 watching. We've got 9 likes, so make sure you guys are smashing that like. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. Wanted to say what's up to our guy, the Fantasy Football Plug podcast.
What's
is in
up,
the house,
buddy?
Saying what's up, Plug.
What's going
on?
How
you doing over there? And he did have a question for us. So.
Jay the Plug. If you haven't followed him on Instagram, you should do so. Whisper Nation. He's awesome.
So the Fantasy Football Plug asks, need 2. Shark, Devontae Parker, Fulgham, full PPR. What y'all think about that? Need to start 2. We got Shark, we got Parker, we got Fulgham out of Philadelphia.
I think you're going to have to go with Parker and Fulgham because I don't think that Shark is going to play. He was I haven't seen if he was limited or not at practice day. The last that I had heard, he was not practicing. So that is a concern there. And with all these pass catchers out, it's not the best matchup for Philadelphia, but you might have to roll out Fulgham and Parker.
Yeah, but to be fair, if Shark does play, I would be more confident in Shark over Fulgham here. I think that's the right bet. So
agreed. Yeah.
Hopefully you get that decision in time. Obviously. Let's see. We had another one right above that.
Fant or Ebron, and then Matt Ryan or Bridgewater. Nexus Packs axe. Fant or Ebron at the tight end position. We talked about Fant. It's a little bit of a fade play right now, right? Ebron came back from that hand injury after having over 50 yards last week. I'm feeling Ebron over Fant this week.
Yeah, especially with the injury. If Fant gives it a go, like we said, roll with Fant if you don't have many more options. I do like Ebron this week, and he's kind of geared up his usage lately. This one's a tough one. I think the quarterback question here is Matt Ryan or Bridgewater. Bridgewater facing a Chicago defense that is allowing the lowest completion percentage to opposing quarterbacks. So I actually think I would even fade Bridgewater. I know Matt Ryan's been a floor play and he's bottomed out on you. But if he gets Julio back and they're playing Minnesota, I think that's a great matchup for you.
Yeah.
And I would go with him over Teddy just because that Chicago's defense is no joke.
You expect Matt Ryan just to have a Matt Ryan game here. I can't believe we've seen as many weeks pass by without him scoring a touchdown. It's weird.
Right.
I can't believe we're in a world where we're questioning whether we should start Matt Ryan against Minnesota, the worst defense for quarterbacks. They give up the most points to fantasy quarterbacks, and we're still like, do we start him? I don't know. It's pretty bad if he doesn't hit. That's pretty terrible.
Yeah, it is. But you expect, especially with Travis's point of Juju coming back, though, he still can chuck it. He can still make it.
Yeah.
It's been super weird, though.
Gus
Any other
Ramos
questions?
says hi. What's going on, Gus?
What's up, Gus?
Just want to get a few shout outs in here. Sorry about that, Austin. Go for it.
No, that's good. That's good. My chat had frozen, so apologies for missing some of these questions here. Love Whisper Nation jumping in here. All 15 of you joining us here in the live chat. Thanks for spending your Friday afternoon with us. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Let us grow this channel. We love to do it. And share the questions. This is what we're here to help answer. Moving through, Travis, I want to ask you about Mo Alley Cox, tight end from the Indianapolis Colts, who was off to, my goodness, what a hot start. It was ridiculous. Despite the other tight ends over there, I know they were hurt with Trey Burton as well as Jack Doyle, both of which are back now. And Mo Alley Cox is dealing with a knee issue. He's not going to play this week. So this kind of ping is now talking about Mo Alley Cox's long-term outlook, as well as the other pass catching options over there in Indianapolis, more specifically at the tight end position, but other positions included there for Phillip Rivers. How are you evaluating this week and beyond, Travis?
Unfortunately, Mo Alley Cox does not seem to be a thing. Obviously, he's got the knee injury. And then even when he was in the last 2 weeks with Trey Burton back, it just looked like this offense wanted to force feed Trey Burton looks. And Trey Burton does not look good at football. But that being said, I do think Trey Burton could get some play in this game with Mo Alley Cox out. And if you're looking at streamable matchups, I think this is a good one here for Indy. If you look at what Cincy's been giving up to the tight end position, they've been giving up 10.4 points. That's in the top half of the league. And so I think you could actually look at maybe getting your toes dirty. And I mean really dirty by going with Trey Burton here. I look at Phillip Rivers and that arm just looks cooked. I just don't know if that guy can get it to anybody else but the running backs or the tight ends. And even then, he's struggling to do that. So this is Cincy. It should be on paper a get right spot. But we'll have to see. Phillip Rivers is the one that could easily not get right in a get right spot.
I'm kind of excited for this game more than I should be. I like these volatile. Are they washed? Are they up and coming rookie studs and Burrow? It's got a lot of fun shifting dynamics in this game that I'm excited to be checking out here. In the chat, Gus Ramos asks, he says, I'm projected to lose by 20 points. Forget projections. They're only projections. But he's projected to lose by 20. He wants to know if he should be going with Teddy Bridgewater, Cam Newton, and then Lindsey or Gordon on this one.
We're going Cam Newton over Teddy Bridgewater this week.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, yeah.
And Gordon or Lindsey. If you got both.
Would you say, Travis?
I didn't say that.
Oh.
I mean, if you want me to answer, so Lindsey or Melvin Gordon, like if Melvin Gordon's active, I'm starting Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, he's gonna have the touchdown upside and all that stuff.
But if you're the Lindsey guy, you might be hoping that Gordon's out, just so that you get full usage out of Lindsey in this game, and I think that would be a nice spot to do here. So yeah, I would roll with Gordon if he's in, and then Lindsey obviously if Gordon's out.
I'll try to tear through some of these questions here before jumping back into some of the news and nuggets. ISO only, full PPR, flex spot. He's thinking Ronald Jones, Darius Slayton, or Chenault Jr. Ronald Jones, right?
Yeah,
even in
Ronald
the full PPR?
Jones. Yeah.
Brazy Brady. He wants to smash accept after hearing these comments. Glad to hear it.
That's way better. Russell Wilson, Kareem Hunt trade.
Oh,
I hope he
nice.
gets that done. I think that's going to be a nice deal for him.
Yeah, I think
that's going to be
nice.
fun. KM Basketball asks, should I start Higbee or Everett?
Ooh, this is tough.
I would go with Everett.
I think I would. I think I'd ride the upside of Everett right now. I think that's our guy Summy, who you can find on Twitter at SummyTFW, was talking to me a little bit earlier about how he projects the Rams to be throwing to the middle of the field against San Francisco because of what's going on with their linebacking core. And he believes that that's the way to attack San Fran. And that means Cooper Kupp and maybe one of these tight ends to get free and get into the end zone. And Everett's been looking really good as an athlete the last few weeks.
I love that take and that help there. Great advice, Big Travie. And Johnny, we've got in the chats, Travis Elkins asking Claypool, Fuller, CeeDee or Julio, standard. Pick one. Julio's healthy. Is it a gimme?
I mean, when you're looking at, I mean,
Supposed to be.
yeah, it should be. Name the receivers one more. You had who? Odell. I see it right here. Oh no, that's a different one.
It's
You had,
Claypool,
Travis
Fuller,
Elkins.
CeeDee, or Julio.
yeah, I'm going with CeeDee here. I'm putting in CeeDee.
I like Fuller.
And
I like Fuller too.
I mean, Fuller's not bad. I mean, I love playing him as long as he's healthy. But I just like the matchup for CeeDee Lamb, and he's been producing, and we saw him even continue to produce with Andy Dalton coming in. So
I think I've seen enough of Fuller to know that he's doing it multiple ways. He's been the target leader, but he's also just been the touchdown guy in a few games this year. So I think I would actually roll with Fuller. I think he's a more versatile. If Julio's healthy, yeah, you like want to do it. I don't know if he's fully healthy. He hasn't been fully healthy maybe in 2 years. And so I think I would be okay with sitting him on the
his
bench.
whole life, he hasn't been healthy his whole life.
I mean, he literally lived on the injury report for his entire career.
Well, did
There's
you
no
see
bad
he
picks
wasn't
on this one.
What was weird is he wasn't even on the injury report today. So I think you're going Julio. I'm going Julio. You're going Julio against Minnesota.
Oh man, you've literally said every wide receiver in that group.
No, I'm definitely going.
There's a case to be made for all of them.
Final answer is Julio. He's healthy and off the injury report. I cannot have him go off against Minnesota. Okay. Minnesota's a cakewalk. Cakewalk matchup.
And I would get cute. It feels too cute for me to take a non-injury reporting Julio Jones going against a bad defense and not play him. I'm just not feeling. I'm not that cute to roll that one out there. I got to go with what's what on this. Where wants to know, should I start A.J. Brown or Miles Sanders for the wide receiver running back slot? Sanders against the Ravens, Brown against the Texans. Miles Sanders or A.J. Brown flex spot?
I'm going A.J. Brown. I know it's a difficult matchup. I do know it's a difficult matchup with the with Houston's corner. But A.J. Brown, they'll find a way to get him open. You saw, I mean, he's huge. And I do expect him, because he's going to be the only wide receiving option other than Jonnu in this game. And so I do see them scheming a way to get him open and get him the ball. And Miles Sanders, I mean,
I need to know if this is PPR or standard. I think that would affect my decision here. I really like the volume that Sanders is getting. I mean, Pittsburgh is he's a playmaker. Like, Pittsburgh was a really tough matchup, and you still saw Sanders get free for 74 yards and a touchdown on that one run. Also, he didn't eclipse 100 yards, so he was held under that. But we're talking about all these injuries in Philly. He's the only one that's healthy for them. It's hard for me to not want to trust Sanders in that spot.
It would really depend for me if I'm aiming for an elevated floor or I need to shoot for the moon and go for all the points here. A.J. Brown to me would be the ceiling play. Who's more likely, in my opinion, to get 150 yards and 2 touchdowns? It would be A.J. Brown. Who do I think is more likely to get under 45 yards total? And that'd also be A.J. Brown for me. So I would, if I'm going for the floor, I'm going Miles Sanders. If I'm going for the ceiling, I think A.J. Brown is in a phenomenal spot to swing for the fences. Yeah. Okay. So we've got more questions that are coming in, but I did want to ask Johnny here about the Buffalo Bills backfield. As we've got Zach Moss, he's got a toe. He's been dealing with it for a while now. He practiced in full today, though, Friday. And Zach Moss, really highly touted rookie. I know you eventually came around in the preseason to Zach Moss, somebody that Big Travie had been hyping.
No, I didn't come around to him as a player. I always said he sucked. I always said he sucked. I came around that he was the better value. I came around he was the better value in the draft. That is what I came around to.
Whatever it is, we have the tapes to substantiate the yes or no, but that's neither here nor there. Johnny, how are you feeling about him this week along with Devin Singletary in the Buffalo Bills backfield?
I mean, I expect the same thing that we've been seeing. I expect that Singletary will get the bulk of the carries, and then Zach Moss would see, some of the passing work and as well as the goal line work there for Buffalo.
Yeah. He's on this. How about Travie on the pass catching side? John Brown practiced in full. That's 2 straight full sessions from John Brown after he missed Tuesday's game with the Titans. He's really the wide receiver 3 option there for teams in general. Do you expect to see him be relevant in this game coming forward? We know Diggs is looking really good, but how do you feel about John Brown?
Yeah, look, we've got like 6, maybe 7 quality wide receivers on bye this week. New Orleans wide receivers, Chargers wide receivers, Seahawks wide receivers, all on bye. John Brown is a really fine start for me, and a high over under against the Chiefs, in a get right game, or what I should say, the Bills will want it to be a get right game for their offense after not being that sharp against the Titans. They're going to want to put that behind them and show that they're a contender in the AFC. And I think that begins and ends with Josh Allen in this passing attack. And I think that is going to be John Brown is going to be involved in this game. And if you're trying to keep up with Pat Mahomes, you're going to want your weapons. And if Brown's practicing fully, removed from the injury report, or in there, then he's going to be a guy I'm going to trust.
Most definitely. Shifting over here to the Detroit Lions. Johnny, you've talked a lot about DeAndre Swift, the rookie running back. Got a ton of talent. Been good from the pass catching perspective, minus game 1 in that drop touchdown. But he's competing for touches with other running backs on the field, one of which is Adrian Peterson. The elder statesman has been out a little bit because of an illness, but he practiced in full today. How are you evaluating the Detroit Lions backfield? Who would you start if you had a choice?
I think this is a blow-up game for DeAndre Swift. The matchup is fantastic against Jacksonville. We had Ryan on the show the other day. We dropped that show today, so check out our channel on that. It's a Keep Trade Cut. But we talked about DeAndre Swift and Jacksonville giving up on average, or to every running back, at least 6 catches for 42 yards. So if he adds a touchdown onto that, you're looking at a nice solid day just through the air. But then you also look at what he's doing as far as carries and what he was getting. And people, we talk about the snap share and how it might not be where we wanted it to be. But the fact is, when he was on the field, they were targeting him. He was on the field for 23 snaps. They targeted him 8 of those 23 snaps. They got the ball into his hands. So I do think that this is a get right spot, or a blow up game for DeAndre Swift. I would definitely play him. And I think that Adrian Peterson is able to be a flex option if need be, because there are so many teams on bye and all that.
Like it's maybe a floor play there with Adrian Peterson, a ceiling play there with DeAndre Swift.
He's a body guy that will get you some points.
Yeah, right. He's a body that's going to collect up yards. He's good at falling forward.
Right.
Sometimes that's into the end zone.
Yeah.
Big Travie. We've got some questions here in the chat from Whisper Nation. Thanks everybody again for joining us here on this Friday afternoon, bringing your fantasy football questions to the Fantasy Whispers, where we're running our News and Nuggets episode. David Richards, Big Travie, asks, between these wide receivers, which one are you picking? Maybe you can just rank them for us. We've got 4: Odell Beckham, Claypool, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, PPR.
Please put some respect on Devontae Adams' name and never ask if you should rank him above any of these wide receivers ever again. No, I'm just kidding, David. But seriously, Devontae Adams is the wide receiver 1. Walks into probably 30% market share, fully healthy, practicing in full all week. He is the guy you should be starting here. PPR, standard, made-up leagues, whatever. Devontae Adams should be in your lineup regardless. And then I would go, if I had to choose the rest of these, in PPR, I'm going A.J. Brown, then Odell, then Claypool. I know that Deontay Johnson's out. I know we love Claypool, but I got to see that again. I mean, it's 4 touchdowns. He's not giving you 40 points every game. But I do think that his work increases with Deontay out. But also just want to say, nice depth at that wide receiver position, man.
Seriously, right? Those are some wide receivers. Trade him over to me. I'll take him in a couple of leagues of mine.
Yeah.
Big Johnny, Gus Ramos, Jerry Jeudy, or Christian Kirk?
I'm going Christian Kirk. Actually, Christian Kirk has been looking solid the last couple of weeks. He's starting to get targets once again. And you like this matchup against Dallas, who has been giving up major chunk yardage. So I do think that Christian Kirk is a good flex option here.
Yeah, 12 targets over the last 2 weeks, and just really had his best game against the Jets. And then Dallas, we know, just hemorrhaging points to wide receivers this year.
There we go. Nexus Pax asks, should I start Koo or pick up Jason Sanders? There.
Sanders is a nice flex or a nice stream this week. I actually do like Sanders.
Dude, it's all about Younghoe Koo. Can Sanders do a backflip kick into a field goal? No, he cannot. You always go with the greater story at kicker, no matter what. That's what you
and make
do
sure
here.
And make sure you go into your league management settings and add the bonus points for backflips performed after the play. You can
Yeah.
add up to a half to 3 points for backflips
Yeah.
afterwards. It just makes the game super weird. It's super
Make
weird.
sure. Yeah,
Oh, that's good.
100%.
Way to go.
I like Koo, man. That they've got a high over under. I think Koo is set to be in part of an offense, and even if we think that Atlanta's going to continue to struggle, that actually could spell good news for Koo, who could be lined up for more field goals as opposed to touchdowns because Matt Ryan isn't efficient. So
I,
I'm good with Koo.
I will
Goo for
say
Koo.
I will say that Minnesota does
Super Koo.
give up one of the most points to opposing kickers. So I'll just throw that on there. So
Yeah.
that's fine.
So moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, wide receiver Deontay Johnson. He's out. He's got a back issue going on. So his presence with the Browns is not happening this week. But we saw Chase Claypool go off last week for 3 catches or 3 touchdowns through the air and another one on the ground, 4 touchdowns total. He should have had a 5th. There was a penalty that pulled it back. How are you guys both feeling right now about the wide receiving options in Pittsburgh? We got Juju Smith-Schuster, who's kind of locked into whatever role he's locked into, and Deontay Johnson out, so Claypool's coming in. Big Travie, how you feeling about that, or Johnny as well?
I love this matchup for the wide receivers of Pittsburgh, and what I love even more with Claypool and with any of these, Juju is the number 2. That's usually how it works out. But it's a battle for who the number 1 has been target share. In the 2 games Deontay's been healthy, he's seen double-digit targets. In the 2 he hasn't, Chase Claypool has scored a touchdown or more. So you like what's going on there as far as if one is out, meaning Deontay Johnson, if Deontay Johnson's out, Claypool's worth a start. And then you look at what Cleveland's giving up on average to wide receivers, 37.2 points per game. That's 4th most in the NFL right now. That defense has been good up front, but it's very susceptible in the back end. And so I really like Pittsburgh to be thrown all over the place in this game. And they're favored at home here too. So.
Speaking of throwing, the Cincinnati Bengals have been doing it a lot with quarterback Joe Burrow chucking the ball at a very high clip. Out in Tate, one of his options is going to be likely out, doubtful for week 6 with a shoulder injury. AJ Green is cleared to play, but we've seen T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd emerge as the top pass catching options as of late. Johnny, how are you evaluating the Cincinnati Bengals pass catching options coming into week 6 against the Steelers?
Pretty much that's I'm only really confident in starting T. Higgins and even then I think he's like a wide receiver 3 flex option for you. But Tyler Boyd, I have full confidence in starting him. But AJ Green, I'm not touching him. I would, if I had him, I'd probably drop him for a waiver wire guy, maybe like Fulgham or something like that. I would rather have him. I just think we've seen the end of AJ Green. We saw him, mouth, "Get me out of here, trade me," and then deny it. I don't know. But I am not confident whatsoever in starting AJ Green at all. I would only be confident in Boyd 100%. And then T. Higgins, if I had to, I like his targets.
Indy's been really tough.
Moving on to this.
Yeah, that as well.
Sorry. Just wanted to throw that in there. Indy's been a really tough spot. And I think if I'm actually going to trust any of them, it's Tyler Boyd just because of the volume that he's been seeing out of the slot. So
he's the best wide receiver, it looks like, in Cincinnati, and they're throwing the ball a lot. Travis, I wanted to ask you about the Carolina Panthers, kind of as a whole. We know Christian McCaffrey's been out. He's going to be out until at least week 8. So he's not here this week or the next week. But Mike Davis, we know, has been filling in really, really well. And their wide receivers have been going off. Robbie Anderson kind of surprising the league right now as that number 1. I saw a stat that of all of the wide receivers in the NFC South, and think about how many good wide receivers we have in the NFC South. We've got Michael Thomas. We've got Calvin Ridley. We've got Julio Jones. We've got DJ Moore. We've got a handful of guys I know I'm forgetting. Robbie Anderson is leading that entire batch in terms of yards, and he's looking like that real number 1. He's got a great skill set. DJ Moore is looking like that 1B or maybe a high 2, but he's still performing really well. And then they also got Curtis Samuel, who's been questionable, but Teddy Bridgewater came out this week saying he's a really versatile player and they want to get him more involved in what's going on. Anything you'd like to share right now with the Carolina Panthers wide receiving options? How do you shake it out? Or do you feel good starting all of them? Are you fading anybody? What do you think?
No, I think, I mean, this week is tough, right? We know, I mentioned the stat about Chicago not allowing the least completion percentage against. So I do think Teddy's in for a bad day, which means I'm going to lean towards Robbie Anderson, who has averaged over 9 targets per game this season. He's seen the volume. And so I think when he's in a tough spot, Teddy's going to go to the guy he's been going to all year. I think the chemistry is there. But I do think better days are ahead for DJ Moore. I think he's a buy low. We talked about this in our buy low, sell high. And the concept is, but Robbie Anderson is the 1A now. Okay, this offense is going to have to throw so much down the stretch. They're going to be against Atlanta and Tampa Bay and New Orleans. That's their division. They're going to be in shootouts. Yeah, they're going to be in shootouts, and they're going to have to put the ball up. So I don't mind having multiple pieces of an offense that's going to be throwing a lot. And as far as Mike Davis is concerned, I mean, Mike Davis is literally saving CMC GMs that lost CMC and were able to pick him up. And he's been a 1-for-1 transition from CMC to Mike Davis. And I think if you can get another good game out of Mike Davis and ship him off, you should probably look to do so. Or you could try and look at an RB needy team this week, right before Sunday, and get that deal done if you can improve and you have CMC back in the next couple of weeks.
Real quick question. Would you start this week, DJ Moore or Mecole Hardman?
Man. I think it's a floor versus ceiling question again, because I don't think I think DJ Moore is probably more locked into target volume, just the way that works. I will say it's a tough matchup for DJ Moore, but Mecole Hardman's got the upside here in a very high over under with Sammy Watkins dinged up. Le'Veon Bell's not going to be there yet, so I think I would lean Mecole Hardman here. It's tough, but I think I would lean Mecole Hardman.
That's a personal question in my league of record here. Yeah, I got to make a decision on that one. It's tough.
Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. Asking for a friend. Giants. We're talking the Giants right now. Darius Slayton, who's been their best playmaking wide receiver, is questionable for week 6, but Jason Garrett fully expects him to be playing this week. We know that Sterling Shepard is out, could return in week 7, but that's not going to happen right now. Is it Slayton and Ingram at the pass catching positions and Freeman in there for you, or is there anybody that we're missing, Johnny?
Yeah, I think I don't have a ton of confidence starting Slayton. I like Slayton as a wide receiver, but Danny Dimes going up against Washington, and like this, you can get Washington on the wide receiving core here. I just think he's going to have a long day up front, to be honest with you. But yeah, so that's kind of where I sit with Slayton, and look, when you're talking about Freeman, he's filled in pretty decently, a lot better than I thought he was going to be. I think he continues to be, a low end RB2 flex option every single week. I will say Washington's front is one of the best in the league, but chances are if you have Freeman, you might not have a better option because you might be the person who, had Saquon and had to go out and get a Freeman. So you might not have the luxury to do that. And I think that he'll end up having a decent day.
Good takes on this. Quick note, I unfortunately will have to bail out in 3 minutes here. And I know we got a lot of great questions coming in from Whisper Nation. I imagine Big Travie and Johnny Game Time Hicks will be able to hang out with you after I unfortunately have to depart. But I do want to get through the last little bit of news and nuggets here before I got to get going on this one here. Big Travie, we know Dalvin Cook is out with Minnesota. Dalvin Cook's been playing great, but Alexander Mattison is no slouch and is going to be filling in. Are you expecting a complete replacement of Dalvin Cook, or how good should folks feel about Alexander Mattison filling in for Dalvin Cook in Minnesota?
Yeah, just about as close to a 1-for-1 replacement as you can get in the NFL at this point. Maybe Mike Davis is better, but yeah, we've got something in Alexander Mattison here, who saw 20 touches in very limited action last week. Or 20 carries in very limited action last week against the Seahawks in relief of Dalvin Cook. So, yeah, fire up Madison. He's going to be a 1-for-1 or as close to it as you can get.
Playing against Madison, League of
Records.
Super stoked about that. Johnny, DJ Shark, one of your boys, talked a lot about him. He's been banged up all season. It sucks. He's hurt right now, but he is questionable for week 6 with an ankle injury. He's a game time decision. How are you feeling about DJ Chark if you have him and he ends up playing in Sunday's game?
If I have him, I mean, Whisper Nation has him a lot, but all of their wide receivers are stacked. So in those cases, I would sit him for whoever the healthy one is. In some cases, if you need to, if he goes, I'm throwing him out there. We've seen that rapport, what he can do, and I would expect that. We've seen the team hold him out if he is not good to go, and so I feel confident if they roll him out there that they feel like he's at a real good spot to play. So I would be okay barring what else you have in starting DJ Chark, but do know that this definitely downgrades his floor for sure.
Moving on here to the Cleveland Browns, Big Travie, 3 players here to monitor. We've got Baker Mayfield, who's been dealing with ribs, but he's questionable, but he's expected to play. We've got Odell Beckham Jr., who's been sick. He's questionable. He was sent home from practice, non-COVID related, though. It's looking like he's likely to play. And then finally, opposite Odell, we've got Jarvis Landry, still dealing with that hip issue. He's got ribs now, making him questionable for week 6. The ribs did not pop up until midweek, so that didn't happen until this week of practice. He's expected to be available, but still banged up. How are you evaluating the playmakers and all of the positional players over there in Cleveland, Big Travie?
So this game is a little bit interesting to me because obviously Pittsburgh's a tough defense on the run, against the run, but they're pretty susceptible through the air. And so what we've seen here is that it's a 51.5 point over under in that Pittsburgh Cleveland game. And because of that, I actually, and the line's gone down. So Pittsburgh was initially favored by 5.5. Now they're only favored by 3.5. So I actually think that Cleveland's going to put playmakers on the field, and I don't mind Landry or OBJ. We've talked about how many wide receivers are on bye, and so I don't mind them at all in this matchup here.
All right, Travis.
Go
ahead.
I wouldn't be rolling with Baker, obviously, against Pittsburgh. I mean, they got 20 sacks on the year. You're not starting Baker.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we have lost Austin, and I know that you also as well need to get back to work, the day job, I should say. So Whisper Nation, I guess we'll just close it out here. If you have any more questions,
more questions?
Oh, go ahead, Travis. You take it away.
I was just gonna say, if you had any more questions, make sure you DM us on Instagram and also hit us up on Twitter. We're answering questions all weekend long, and then of course the big show. Sunday morning, we go live, so make sure you're subscribed. You like the channel here. Make sure you're subscribed so you can catch us on Sunday. We'll be going live an hour and a half before game time with Johnny Game Time and myself. I'm Big Travie. For Johnny Game Time, I'm Big Travie. We're the Fantasy Whispers. We're out. Peace.
Peace.